Hello everybody, welcome to the Phonostage Audio YouTube channel, and this is the next episode, and it's one that I have been dying to do, just eagerly awaited by me. Don't know about the rest of you, but I'm very excited because a little while ago I heard about the invention of the Graham Audio LS8 which was at the time, you know, they said it was sort of like a new BC1. Since, you know, it hasn't been described in those terms since, really. It has been accepted that it does look, you know, just like a BC1, but is in fact like a lot of other similar speakers in that ilk. You know, Sterling doing LS6. It's an LS6-esque design box speaker. Rogers, Export, LS6, Spendor BC1, Sterling. There's a few, but this is Graham Audio's take on that design. It's Derek Hughes' take on that design. I really wanted a set of these as soon as I heard that they existed. I am a lifelong fan, not lifelong, that's complete rubbish, for a long time. I've been a fan of the Spendor BC1 and also of LS6s, so I really wanted to get my hands on a set, and I finally managed to. So this is beautiful. They're just flipping gorgeous, but you'll be wanting to know what they sound like, and you'll be wanting to know what I think of them, especially as I've had these in such amazing company as an original pair of BC1s. I took them home, I took Graham home to meet Spendor to see if they play nice, and this exalted company, a whole bunch of other BBC monitor speakers and Graham Audio speakers. So I've had plenty to reference these against, the sort of things that you don't always have that opportunity to do. So so on that note, let's get rocking. Let me remind you why we're here. This is the Phonostage Audio YouTube channel. Could you please like and subscribe and share if you like it, of course. You know, subscribing is a really good idea because I am constantly churning out these videos. There's going to be loads more. I'm surrounded by gear. I've just done a video walk round. You've never seen the whole place, have you? I've just done a video walk round showing people the kinds of things that we've got in the shop, the kind of things that we've got on demo, the kind of things we've got just for historical interest. So I'd like to talk about some of those things, really, and look out for the video walkthrough. So subscribing is a good idea. Anyway, with no further ado, let's just talk about the speakers, okay? Before something goes wrong. If the phone rings, I'm going to snap like a dry twig. I'm going to go chicken oriental, I'm telling you. It's just been, I'd love to do this in one take. I would just love to do it. So let's just see how far we get. Right, so I got my hands on a pair of these. They're a demo pair. They're one of the first bunch of these that were made. Signed by Derek Hughes. Something of a celebrity in hi-fi circles, if you're into that sort of thing. But yeah, Derek, you know, that's a nice thing to see. So, and they're beautifully finished. And they're beautiful. I mean, you expect that of Graham Audio stuff. They're all beautifully finished. These are Graham Audio speakers. These, so really nice, sort of. Can't get the Spendor out of my head. I know that they're not a Spendor clone or anything like that. I'm just saying they're very aesthetically, physically, very similar. They do sound different, and that's what I'm going to talk about, because everybody will be wanting to know, what do they sound like, you know. So they do sound like different, and I spent yesterday evening with a pair of rebuilt Spendors and with these next to each other, listening to a variety of things, but beautifully finished, gorgeous, you know, easy. Look at this. After many years spending time sticking knives and forks up the side of your grills, trying to get them off. Magnetic grills, pretty sexy. Oh, if that's the phone, Just a minute. Let me just press stop to that. Hope that hasn't interrupted the video. Right, so where were we? Oh yeah, so beautifully finished. These particular set come with the certificate, the signed copy. Unlike some of their contemporaries, you know, you've got the adjustable crossover settings here, the filter switch. So this is +1 dB, -1 dB on the treble. You've got two soft dome tweeters, and the Graham Audio designed, well, Derek Hughes designed sort of woofer crossover configuration. It's ported, a bigger port than some of the other speakers of its ilk. I had heard, the word on the street was, sound a bit like sort of Rogers and some of those other speakers, you know, at the top end, but with a more controlled bass, a better bass, a more modern bass, something you could rock out to. So I was expecting quite a bassy speaker, really. Now when I got them going, now bear in mind these, I'm the second person I think to have had my mitts on these, and they're not fully running. I can tell they're not fully running. I feel them loosening up, you know, to my ears as I've been playing them. I've put quite a few hours on them already, but they do sound really, really, really nice. They're not a bassy speaker. In a lot of ways, I mean, they're not as bassy as like the Spendor. So when you say, you know, we have to compare them. We have to. People are going to ask. You put them next to each other. At first glance, yeah, they do sound similar at the top end. The imaging is slightly better on these. It does actually. They do actually separate things out better. Now you'd think that'd be a lot more to do with the amplifier. The speakers, the baffle size is the same. We're not losing anything to imaging in that respect. Physically, they're the same dimensions. They do image better. Mid-range and treble, very similar. The bottom end is different. It is not more bass though. It is not more. The Spendor sounded bassier. To me, I felt like there was something a little bit clinical about these when I first put them on. And then I got into a particular track I was listening to. He's Simply's Dummy's the Pilot, Grandaddy. There's a bit in there where it goes into it's kind of a long extended section, and there's like a sub bass below it, just comes in for a bit, comes out, comes in. It's a synth bass. That's not massively obvious on the Spendors, even though they sort of like are. There's more of a lower, like an upper registers bass, which isn't necessarily particularly accurate, you know, like so the higher notes of a bass guitar, the upper registers of synth bass, sort of like low notes on a cello sort of kind of frequency. There's more of that, but when it gets beyond that, you don't really get a great deal going on. But then suddenly, you know, directly comparing on that track, suddenly it was there in front of me. These were putting this out. So where I thought there was less, there was more. And I'm sure that on paper these measure up more accurately in that respect. You know, so they have greater extension, but they don't necessarily sound bassier. They don't sound warmer, they sound slightly cooler. But then, you know, by modern standards, and by a lot of traditional standards too, really, the Spendors are on the sort of slightly, you know, I read somewhere on one of the forums, somebody said, oh, they sound shrill and harsh. Well, that's complete nonsense. You know, they just don't. You know, I just don't know. I don't know, maybe you just had like one attached to each side of his head or something like that. They definitely don't. They're a smooth sounding, gorgeous mid-range, quite a refined sort of treble, quite good bass, but known to be not particularly accurate. You can't drive the bass on them. You know, they don't do rock that well. at louder volumes. At quieter volumes, that extra bit of low mid bass does compensate and you feel like you're getting a fuller sound. But with these, it was more separated out. The stereo imaging was better. I didn't lose out to anything in the treble or the mid-range really. I thought the mid-range was excellent on these. I thought it was just really, really, really good. I felt like they lost a bit in the bass at first and they sounded a bit more clinical and a bit cooler, and then I got it back in the lower registers. And when you turn them up then, you see, I was in a domestic environment, quite a small room, you don't get to turn them up too high, but when I was able to turn them up, when I brought them into here and cranked them up a bit, then I got some more of that bottom end back. But it was tight, you know, it was punchy and it was much more controlled. I was a bit bass spoiled, I think, on that day, you know, when I was just listening to them, and as I'm talking about these, I'm drawn in by the gravitational pull of these Behemoth LS8s at the side of me, which I've been listening to all day. They're very different in sound, I'm sure you can imagine. There's no point comparing these type of speakers. There is a point comparing them to the LS6F, and to a degree to the LS6. I've done reviews of both of those, and they're around somewhere. They're not here. I've gone for sort of bigger things in this. The bigger things is the flavour of the day. Yeah, they do sound a little bit like an LS6F to me, but that's from memory. I have not put these next to each other yet, and that because there's too much rearranging needed. And I'm in the middle of doing some. I'm in the middle of reviewing these. I mean, these haven't been. I'll never tire of reviewing these, but there's no room for those in my house. I couldn't buy a pair. I couldn't own a pair for myself, not unless I rebuilt something. I'd say if you've got room, buy some. Yeah, if you've got money, buy some. There's a review coming up of those. Watch out for a future video review, because I'm captivated by them. So, but they see, they're drawing me in with the gravitational pull of the mass of the speaker. It's pulling me in. I have to stop. Back to these. Right, so I was very, very excited about getting my mitts on a pair. I'm a sentimental, mushy old Spendor BC1 fan. I love Rogers export monitors. I just like those type of speakers. I like speakers that are this shape. I like speakers that are this look. And the thought of there being a modern version about to appear, you know, like a modern iteration, one that wouldn't have the reliability problems, the paranoia, you know, so like mine are hooked up to the AV system as well, you know, through like a unity gain input, which is great, you know, it would work really well for that. They don't play at loud volumes, you know, and I don't listen at loud volumes. I'm a sub 70 dB listener, you know, 64, 65, if you're going to be really boring about it. I find myself gravitating to those kind of levels. And at those kind of levels, between 65 and say 70 maximum, I want the music delivering to me, right? I don't want to have to go and, you know, I'm not going to be satisfied with a speaker that only puts out the goods when I turn it right up and don't do my ears any good. You know, I like near field monitoring at moderate levels where everything's very, very exposed, clear in front of you. I like a slightly larger middle room sized version of that. So for me, a speaker has to deliver the goods at a very, very acceptable volume. An amplifier has to do the same. We spoke about the exposure 3510 and how even at quiet volumes, when I put it on and Madonna ray of light I had on, and it was broadcasting out those little synth notes, little things out in the outer edges of the atmosphere of the stereo field. You know, William Orbit would come pinging out across the room. There was some bass I could sort of feel subconsciously. I couldn't really feel it, not at those volumes, but it was low, you know, and I could tell then that it was an amplifier that was going to deliver the goods at lower cost. I mean, lower cost to your hearing, lower cost to the neighbours. I love that idea, you know, that equipment can do that. but it has to be, you know, it has to be equipment of a certain ilk and a certain kind of design, really. Well, these very much do that, because and they did that last night when I was listening to them with that bass that I was referring to, and they did a splendid job of Stevie Wonder. I was listening to Hotter Than July. What a well-produced record. I spoke about Stevie Wonder again last time as well, when we were talking about how he, on Innovisions, he played nearly everything. The guy's a genius. But in terms of production, like that sort of slightly later into the 70s. What year was it anyway? Can anybody tell me what year was Hotter Than July? Was it 1978 or something like that? Anyway, definitely takes it to another level. And that's where the precision of a new unit, newly designed unit, with the same basic tone configuration of the more traditional speakers that are of its ilk, but where they really come into their own. They can really pull the best out of production. They can be tight and they can be accurate, and you do, to get the full range, you do need to turn them up a little bit more than I was doing at home. But when I got them in here and I cranked them up a little bit more, you need to have them away from the wall. They need a bit of space. Don't sit on top of them. I found that wasn't really the answer either. So rooms, not larger than my room at home. My room at home is 5 metres by 5.5 metres by 5 metres or something. Something a bit bigger than that will be better, just to get more room behind the speakers and be able to get away from them a little bit, so you could turn them up a little bit more. But we're not talking massive, you know, 6 or 7 metres, you know, in one direction, you know, just to try and, as I say, just try and give them space to stretch the legs, and give you space to kind of get away and really pick up that excellent stereo imaging that they're capable of. That is a standalone feature of its own. The fact that they're imaging better than what I've got already. The fact that I had never ever thought there was a deficit in imaging with my home setup. I mean, there isn't really. It's all relative, isn't it? But of course, now I've heard something that does it better. Of course, I've got a deficit to deal with. Anyway. So, would I have a pair myself? Yes, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Because I'd get a lot of what I'm already getting, plus a little bit more. And I would get better separation and less paranoia, less fear of burning out a driver that's made out of unobtainium that I could never replace. You know, if I did a benefits and burdens, the balance sheet on this, I'd be balancing that against a sort of sweeter, kind of more cosy, lovable sound, slightly more of the BC1. I don't know, it'd be sentimentality, it'd be things that, they'd be intangible qualities really, you know, of the kind of ownership of something. For practical modern usage, these will definitely be the way to go. As for comparing them to their contemporaries and other things in the Graham Audio range and other things in the BBC monitoring type thing, I'm going to get back to that. I'm going to save this for a kind of video part 2. So, because I need to, because of the behemoths are in the room, right? They've pushed out the LS6Fs and a couple of other things. So, and I don't really like moving these LS59Fs around because they're so bloody heavy, right? And they're on spikes. So I can't just kind of slide them out the way like I do with some of them. You know, I can't, they need to be put on the right kind of trolley and moved or something. So what I'll do is over the next couple of weeks is I'll swap these out for the LS6Fs, and I'll get a comparison going on. All right, let's just see, because if you were going to spend, you know, like a few £1,000s, I don't know, 3, 4, whatever, if you were thinking of buying a set of premium British hi-fi BBC-esque monitor style speakers, you know, you like that listening experience, you do have a choice there. You have a direct choice of speakers that are, you know, that should be considered against each other. Although these are a bit more expensive, they have the extra driver. But in terms of, you know, the physical size of them, and, you know, there's a comparison to be made, and there's a choice to be had. So I'll help out a bit with that. You know, I'll revisit that, and I'll come back and tell you what I think, what my findings are. I've also, like I said, you might have had a scene on the on a couple of the Facebook groups. I've been asking people what listening suggestions they might have for me review of the LS8, because I'm going to listen to them loads. I'm really, really addicted to these. So I've had all kinds of fantastic things. You know, the Cult, Budgie, In the Grip of a Tyre Fitter's Hand, which is a total classic. I can envision myself 17 years old, left home, living in a bedsit with that, the gatefold vinyl. I think I had one nice lamp I was proud of, very poor. But I did have enough money to buy a record deck and an amplifier and a pair of speakers and some Budgie LPs. So, and I do remember listening to that particular track, so I'd love to hear that. Some Dire Straits, Sonny Rollins, oh, I can't remember, but I've done myself a playlist anyway, so I'm going to be going through that with the LS8s. I'm going to have a great fun with that. So, I mean, that's about all from me for now. This is my initial impressions, 2 days listening of these gorgeous speakers, brand new on the market, the LS8 from Graham Audio. Definitely recommended by me already. Okay, if you like the old things and you want to improve on it a little bit, tighten things up a little bit, make them safe for the modern age, this is an incredibly good way of doing it. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Share the video, please, share the love, because the more people we get interested in the channel, the more interesting comments I get, the more directions that takes me in as to what I'll do next. So yeah, so that's all for me. I'm going to sort of like listen to these again tomorrow, with some of your suggestions if you make some. So let's see how we get on with that. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye.